Okay, let's see. I'm not sure that the sound was on for the beginning of the program, but who cares? This is the show with no name. And okay. Now, I should point out that the station will be covering the Mohawks playoff game tonight against
Diamond Dogs.
Diamond Dogs. Is that the right name?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, the team from Little Falls there. Yeah. Right.
And it's going to pregame starts at 6:30 on WCSS.
Yeah, we watched them play against the same team on Monday night or Tuesday night. Tuesday night, I think. Yeah, I think. And then they had to play Albany. Meaning the Diamond Dogs had to play Albany to determine who was going into the championship series. We were like 9.5 or 10.5 games in first place, but the two of them were tied for second place. So they had to work it out.
Way behind. Way behind. In
Way behind. The Mohawks had a remarkable season. As usual, once those guys from Kentucky arrive, they're pretty much unstoppable. Unfortunately, they lost their closer for the season, and it was just a quirky thing. We were there at that game too. The previous.
What was the quirk?
First of all, I forget his name, and you should remember it because he's a hell of a pitcher. We were parked in front of the bullpen, so we watched him warm up before he took the mound. He's one of these sidearm submarine throwers.
Uh-huh.
The more he warms up, the lower the ball gets when it leaves his hand. He's almost scraping the ground. And he's lights out. He's a lights out closer. And, the last out of the ninth inning was that yours?
Yeah.
Okay, which one's mine? Oh, okay. Sorry. All right, the last out of the ninth inning was a spectacular play by the second baseman, grabbing the ball and tossing it to the first baseman for the final out. The closer leaps in joy, comes down hard on his knee and popped the knee, and he's out till at least February.
That's too bad. The season will be over by then, right?
Our season will be over with. He's hoping to be ready for the start of his college baseball season. Terrible. But the Mohawks have been playing great ball. They got a lot of depth, and everybody should turn out for this home game tonight, because if they win tonight and they win tomorrow, there won't be a home game on Sunday. And I think there's a second round of playoffs. But anyway.
Go tonight.
Go tonight. It looks like beautiful weather coming up. I say that every time, and then it starts to rain. But that's,
you're not a weatherman.
This is, boy, we have had like the same weather pattern all summer long here. It's nice, and then a new front comes through and it rains, and then it's nice again, and a new front comes through and it rains.
I can take it. Yeah,
but it's rained virtually every day for the last several weeks. I know because I've been waiting to mow the lawn.
That's good, because that gives us time not to mow the lawn.
Yeah, I know, but
get an excuse.
It's nice to have an excuse, but you have an excuse, but you also have a wife, and that.
But my wife is very understanding. She sees me sitting down. She says, "Okay, Jim, take it easy."
Is that right? Well, the queen of Facebook.
Oh, no.
Is picking on me.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not?
What did she say here? It was, she says on her Facebook page, a constituent contacted me with a question about overtime causing the problems with finances in the controller's office. This is a silly and baseless premise proposed by someone that should know better. I, as mayor, do not sign off on departmental overtime. The department heads do. If the department head is going to exceed the amount budgeted for overtime or any other budget line, they must go to the budget committee and request a budget modification via resolution to meet the expense. If the council says no, there is no process for the mayor to circumvent the controller or the council and sign off on continued expenditures. It's bunk. I did issue an executive order that disallowed discretionary overtime, meaning that overtime could only be assigned in emergency situations. The long-standing problems in the finance department came from accounting deficiencies, poor record keeping, untrained staff, an untimely and poorly executed switch from one accounting software system to a new system, and a lack of proper oversight over time. I have documented the many times I tried to bring these deficiencies to the attention of the council and past controllers, and then there's a link. I am grateful that the prior council had the foresight to hire staff and consultants to finally address these problems, and that we have a very talented controller steering this process now. We expect to be on sound footing in all respects this fall.
I would dispute that, because if our auditor or whoever's sending these papers in for the AUD knows that he's sending in false reports, something is wrong with City Hall.
Yeah.
Because he admitted that it's a false report.
Right.
And I don't care what.
And he's also said the one that they're sending in this week
is a false report.
Is a false report,
exactly.
as well as the last one.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but it bought us time because we.
Yeah.
Last time that was the excuse. Now we're looking to the fall. In other words, she's admitting now that this one's not going to solve the problem either. All right, let's go. Let's back up, and because this is about me. I'm the person with the bunk who should know better. Okay, and that started, when someone posted on Facebook. I'm not going to embarrass him, but I'll read what he posted on the Small Cities Big Problems site or whatever. His question, and it's a legitimate question, because people are bashing the mayor over the time, all the time, about how much money she spends. And he asks a very legitimate question. I have a question. Everyone bashes the mayor on spending, but when has she ever overspent her budget she is allotted? She has spent on fire trucks, demolition, restoration after the flood, water sewer infrastructure improvements, city hall maintenance, and city beautification. I know you're against the beautification, but aside from that, what else would you have changed? And can you quote any time she has ever gone out of budget? I mean, the budget is voted and allotted by the Common Council, correct? I mean, you all showed you can get things done when you want by banning basketball, so what should have been changed? Absolutely legitimate question, right? In other words, yeah, you may disagree with the mayor spending all that money, but she's spending money that the Common Council allotted. Okay. So anyway, that was the question. Well, I answered it.
You answered it?
The answer is, said I, she routinely approved overtime when there was no money in the budget, and when in fact the Common Council at the time specifically refused to transfer funds to cover it. That is where the trouble began, because the books could not balance that year as the funds were spent, tens of thousands, without any legal authorization at all. In parenthesis, I think it was 2010, 2011, it might have been 2011, 2012. So yeah, I'm covering my...
You're covering your backside.
Yeah. Turns out I was right. It was 2010, 2011. My memory is much better than it appears.
It doesn't appear that good from here.
Well, right. Then there's other, questions that arise out of that. Okay, so then she comes back and says that this is a silly and baseless premise. First of all, I didn't say that caused all the problems. Right? I never said that this was all the problems.
No. It was one of the many problems.
One of the many problems. So this comes out, and I responded to it again, and I said, it went into some more detail. And here is exactly what happened, as I recall it. And I said, this is not something, this some strange insider information, all right? This is stuff that was in the paper at the time. I recall reading all about it in the paper and commenting about it at the time, back when we had our, if I went back on the YouTube, I'm sure I could find some comments we all made on the subject at the time. What I understood happened, what I recall happening, was that sometime in the late winter of 2011, in other words, February, March, something like that, the controller came to the Budget Review Board, which consisted of the 5 members of the Common Council, the mayor, and the controller at the time. right? And said, we have overspent the overtime budget for the year, and we have already drained the contingency account by paying this overtime. There's no money left in the contingency account, so anything else will, any other overtime will have to come from fund balance. In other words, from previous year's surplus in common terms.
Or savings account.
Yeah, sort of, but, outside the budget. We've already spent the whole budget. This is in
Yeah.
March of 2011. We've already spent, in February, we've already spent the entire contingency account as well as the overtime budget. And I seem to recall, like Bill Wills and maybe a couple other people saying, oh, wait a minute, how are you spending, how are you paying stuff that's not in the budget? And the controller says, well, we're bringing this up as a courtesy to keep you informed of this, essentially. And so she had the resolution to transfer money to cover the overtime accounts.
Retroactively, of course.
Retroactively. And Common Council said no, or the Budget Review Board. Only 2 people voted aye, and I don't even think one of them was a controller. I got to stop and think about that. There was only one alderman. Gina DeRossi was the only one of the 4 aldermen who voted to approve the change in the budget. So it goes down to defeat, and both the mayor and controller, as I'm recalling this, both said they were going to continue to do what they've been doing. Well, we have to pay the overtime, and the mayor is authorizing the overtime, and it's emergency stuff, and we have to do this. All right?
Yeah.
And then people start challenging my recollection. So I then took the extra step on my day off of taking advantage of my late mother-in-law's recorder account and going into the archives. Recall again what Mayor Thane said this week. She said, I, as mayor, do not sign off on departmental overtime. The department heads do. If the department head is going to exceed the amount budgeted for overtime or any other budget line, they must go to the budget committee and request a budget modification via resolution to meet the expense. If the council says no, there is no process for the mayor to circumvent the controller or the council and sign off on continued expenditures. It's bunk. Jessica Mahar, Amsterdam Recorder, March 16th, 2011. When I said late winter, it was 4 days before the end of winter. In 2011,
late,
in the year that I said, all right? So far, my recollection's pretty good, okay? Give me credit for at least knowing the time and the weather. Here's Jessica Mahar's article. In the remaining months of the City of Amsterdam's 2010-11 fiscal year, which ran till June 30th, any overtime paid to city employees will have to be transferred from fund balance. City Controller Heather Reinecke told the Common Council at its Tuesday meeting that with a resolution authorizing overtime expenses for February 2011, the contingency account has been completely drained. Quote, the only place that it can come from is fund balance from this point forward, she said. Even though overtime had already been paid for the month of February, a resolution to transfer funds was defeated 5-2 by the Budget Review Committee, with only Mayor Ann Thane and 3rd Ward Alderwoman Gina DeRossi voting in favor of the transfer. That would indicate that Reinecke herself voted against it. Quote, it's already been paid, but this was an effort to make the council aware of what's being paid, said Reinecke. At the end of the fiscal year, untransferred that was a quote. This next is not a quote. At the end of the fiscal year, untransferred overtime in the budget would have to be paid out in a lump sum, said the controller, but not in quotes. Yeah. Okay. So, in other words, we continue to pay it, but you're going to have to adjust the budget at the end of the fiscal year, whether you like it or not. Second Ward Alderwoman Julie Pierce said she would not authorize any overtime resolution that includes spending for non-emergency situations. For the second time since January, she pointed to overtime approved by Thane and submitted by Department of Public Works General Foreman Ray Halgus for situations including processing time cards and completing paperwork. I want an answer, said Pierce. Every week we're paying overtime for time cards. Though Thane said she approves the overtime requests in the DPW, quote, because of what is going on in the department in its entirety, unquote, she assured the council there would not be any overtime in the future for such administrative duties. Quote, it's not that I don't agree with Pierce, said DeRossi, but we have been told that legally once overtime is worked, we have to pay it. If you don't pay for it now, you will still pay for it later. So Mayor Thane, who says
She never did.
or doesn't do it, did it. And when she says, this is like Bill Clinton parsing here, all right? If the council says no, this is Mayor Thane, if the council says no, there is no process for the mayor to circumvent the controller or the council and sign off on continued expenditures. It's bunk. Yes, there is no process. That's absolutely correct. It is blatantly illegal for them to do that. However, if the mayor authorizes it and the controller improperly goes along with it, then it's done. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. And this was nothing unusual. It wasn't unusual for the fiscal year 2011. It stopped when Ron Wierzbicki became controller the following January. Now, you have to remember, here's the way they used to do it, and it was wrong, okay? And I think they still do it, but I'm not there, so I don't know for sure. Some departments would routinely overspend line item budgets, and the controller would pay them. And come August, after the month after the fiscal year is ended, there would be this blanket budget adjusting resolution to close out the books for the previous fiscal year. And there would be dozens and dozens of items. You move 10 cents from paper clips to
Staples.
To Staples, yeah, to pay for the Staples. And within reason, small amounts could be transferred by department heads by previous common council resolution. We're not talking about small amounts here. These are
big amounts.
These are big amounts. And when you're talking about running out of overtime and running out of contingency budget in February, with March, April, May, and June, 4 months, a third of the fiscal year is still to go, and they continued to pay for overtime during that fiscal year, come August, all they could do is drain the fund balance to balance the books. Otherwise, the books don't balance. So what's going on in August of 2011? The controller is running for re-election, and she's in a primary fight with Matt Agrestu, who's now the controller, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't get around to doing the budget reconciliation in August, partly because it can't be done because there was no authorization for moving that around, and all she could do is at that point beg them. And the last thing she wants to do in the middle of a primary campaign is go to the Common Council and have them put their backs up and say, no, we're not going to agree to something we already said no to, and then she looks like an idiot going into the September primary. So now, I'm just guessing that may have been part of her motive, or it may have just been she was too busy campaigning. I don't know. In any event, she doesn't do it in August. In September, she gets beat, and she doesn't do it in September, October, November, or December. So the books for the fiscal year 2010, 2011 never got closed. They never got closed by resolution of the Common Council transferring the balance to fund balance, right, or the other way around to cover the mistakes they had already made. It didn't happen. So what happens? The AUD is due 90 days from the end of the fiscal year. The what's that stand for?
Annual update.
Annual update. The annual update that you're supposed to file with the state controller does not get filed within the 90-day period. Well, the books haven't been closed yet. You can't.
You can't file it if the books aren't closed.
Right.
You
You
know.
can't file it, or you're just making stuff up if you do. All right? So she leaves office without ever doing it. Whereas Vicky takes over. I'm not telling too many things out of school here. Ron Wiersbicki was my client. I represented him on election matters that year. So we talked from time to time. And I know you've talked to him.
I did.
He couldn't make heads or tails out of the city's books, and he was right, because they didn't make any sense.
didn't make any sense.
They didn't make any sense because they were routinely spending money improperly, because they were not. So you can't balance out the line items because the line items were overspent.
And if I recall, many common council meetings, Ron would get up there and he says, "Well, we can't pass this resolution because we don't have any money in that account."
Yeah, and they hated that.
And the mayor would tell him, "We still have to do business."
Yeah.
So I don't know where they got the money from, but I imagine they just switched it from other accounts, and that's why everything is so jumbled up, because the mayor said, "You got to pay this bill, you got to do this. We'll just get the money from somewhere else."
So I don't know what was going on in the office at that time, but I do know that the mess started. I mean, you can say they were doing things wrong for years, and they probably were.
They probably were.
They certainly were procedurally were doing things wrong. In the end, when they say, okay, it's wrong, but they can still balance the books out by passing a resolution
Transferring the funds.
Nunc pro tunc, transferring the
Yeah.
funds that they should have been transferred before they were spent. Now, I don't know of any other municipality that allows spending, checks to be drawn, without there being money in the account. I've never heard of it. I know I've discussed it with other officials, our county fiscal people. I've talked to them, and they said, no, that's ridiculous.
No,
Yeah.
I don't spend any money if I don't have anything in the account.
Well,
I don't.
Your wife might, but you won't.
But,
No,
but
no,
even
she
if,
won't.
you
She
know,
won't either.
if there's something, if you have a budget, I mean, we're on a accrual system, so if there is a budget line item, even if there's no cash, you can still pay it, one way or another.
Yeah. It's money on the come.
Right, right, because it's balanced off against those taxes you'll never collect.
Yeah, right.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about actually there's nothing in the line item budget, and worse, the Common Council has already said no. They've said no, we're not transferring the money, and then they go ahead and do it anyway. And I recall one of the department heads at the time saying, "Well, I'm going to continue to." Now, several other things going on at that same time. That was around, I think that was the same year they decided they were going to throw all the overtime into one budget, right?
Yes.
All the general fund overtime was going on, right. So the police, fire, and DPW overtime was all coming out of
The same kitty.
one overtime line item budget. So if you're directing DPW and you want to order overtime, you say, well, okay, there's
money in the account.
There's money in the account. It's one overtime budget. Then you got the police chief doing the same thing and the fire chief doing the same thing. There's a fire, you call the guys in, they get overtime, and there's no. There's only one person that can oversee that, and that's the mayor. That to make sure that there's that they're not all spending the same account,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Which was an incredibly stupid way to do business to begin with, and I don't know what the reason was. It's so they could cover up, or not a cover up, but obscure what was being spent in each department.
Yes.
We'll just throw all the overtime in together, all right? So if, this week it's the police worked overtime, right? And so instead they were all.
Well, they did that.
All the department heads were fighting for their piece of the pie.
Well, they did that so they didn't have a budget for each department, because some of those departments, the overtime was astronomical.
Well, right, that's what I'm saying. So
and
we
they
were
didn't want the people to know that that particular department was, spending $2 million a year or $1 million a year in overtime. So they put it all in one kitty, and they said, who knows what they're spending until the end of the year.
All right, so here's one of my questions. One of my questions is, has this procedure that was used for years of spending money that's not in the budget, is that still being followed? Do we know?
We haven't seen resolutions authorizing additional overtime.
Who knows? You know, sometimes that stuff doesn't make the paper, so I don't know. And it's not like there was no regular procedure for doing this. Every common council meeting, I was preparing resolutions transferring really, literally from gasoline to diesel and the chemicals to whatever. And certain department heads were extremely scrupulous about that. Rich Liberty, may he forever enjoy his retirement. Rich Liberty was outstanding with keeping track of that stuff.
Yes.
And every if there was a need to transfer, we did it. Mike Rybo, when he ran the water department, same thing, outstanding. Others you never heard from them. So, look, I told the truth. The mayor did not. It's as simple as that.
Maybe that's her on the phone.
It could be. Let's see if it is. This is WCSS. You're on the air. Hello? Hello, are you there? Okay.
You flip all the switches.
The switches
All the switches seem to be flipped. Is anybody there? Okay. I guess not. Whoever was hung up.
He must have hung up, Bob. He was on a long time, that guy.
Okay. All right. Well, caller, you can call back if you like. So it's much easier, rather than to admit that they did things wrong, it's much easier just to
blame somebody else.
Just to blame the generic, long-standing problems in the finance department, which came from accounting deficiencies, poor record-keeping, untrained staff, an untimely and poorly executed switch from one accounting software system to a new system, and a lack of proper oversight over time. All right, okay, number one. Who's supposed to provide the oversight? Well, the mayor and the common council are supposed to provide oversight of the controller. And how are they going to do that if the mayor and the controller are going behind the common council and spending money without it ever even going through the common council?
Right.
How's that supposed to happen? How many times?
The mayor's the executive. She's supposed to be carrying out the laws that the council passes.
You better believe it. And every month when I was there, we would get reports from the controller, the department heads. I was a department head, that would tell you how much you would spend on each line item in your budget and how much was left.
That's right.
Right? Okay? So the mayor can't say that she looked at those and didn't know that there was no money in the account. She didn't care. She just continued to do business as usual, authorized the department heads to do more overtime, and in cases like the DPW foreman personally authorize it. So
there we are.
So there we are. So
I would like to see that.
So I continue to stand by what I said here, and what the mayor says is bunk.
Well, we'll know in a week or so when the state gets our update document that is false. I can't. The nerve of someone filing a false report, knowing it's false.
Yeah.
Is that criminal or not?
Well, if you announce in advance that it's false, then I guess it's not criminal. It's not.
Okay.
It's an oops.
Okay.
It's not
it's not an oops.
Maybe,
it's just
maybe they won't look
we're
at
just
it.
trying to buy time.
Maybe they won't look at it.
Well, they didn't accept it. They sent it back.
Well, they may not. They may not. Well, that's what he's looking.
But they're going to buy more
for.
time. They're going to buy another couple months' time,
Yeah.
and hopefully they'll get it straightened out by then. But how are you going to straighten it out unless you go back to 2011 and close out the book? I don't think they closed out the books in 2012 either.
No, they didn't.
All right. She also blames it on the changing to the new accounting system. The new accounting system change also took place in August of 2011. All right. That's a good way to cover up what you've already done. Okay. Yeah. And then you walk away from it.
Just to change the subject a little bit, I heard on the radio that someone at City Hall said that the sign on East Main Street announcing into the city was broken. It is not broken. It is not broken. They lost their lease to use the place. So they have no legal right to go down there and change that sign.
The electric sign at the
The
bottom of the
electric
bridge?
sign, yeah. It's not broken. I guess nobody wants to go down and plug into the back of the sign with their computer. They're looking to get a newer one, bigger one, somewhere else in the city. So they're using that as an excuse that the sign is broken.
So it's not broken.
No, it's not broken.
The lease expired.
The lease to use that land has expired, and they haven't renewed the lease. And
This was another Paul Tonko beauty. All right.
What didn't the Riverfront Foundation put that sign up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And they defaulted on everything they did down there, so the city has to take it over.
Paul was the assemblyman at the time, and he worked with the Riverfront Foundation. I think Ann Thane was director of that at the time, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
I could be wrong about that. She was at one time. Anyway, they want this sign. I think it was his idea to begin with, and the Riverfront Foundation was going to operate the sign. They were going to announce the concerts and all this stuff, and they came to the city. Actually, Taco came to the city himself and wanted the resolution of support because somebody had to pay for the electricity for the sign. And he says, all we want you to do is pay for the electricity. That's the first we hear about it. Right? Like the river bridge. The first we hear about it is when Taco shows up in your office and says, oh, by the way, we want, I'm giving this gift to the city and you have to pay for it. So we had I think the lease agreement is with the Waterfront Foundation, if I'm not mistaken. For this sign. I said, have you cleared this with the police chief and things like that? Because it seemed to me that this was, or the state, the DOT, because it is a real distraction. You got 12 lights there, plus this sign going on, which is an awful lot of
visual information.
Yeah. By the way, this is WCSS 1490 in Amsterdam, New York. This is a show with no name, and it's sometime after 10:30. 10:33, according to that one.
And I'm getting very hungry, so
yeah,
I think.
Well, wait a minute, before we get into the long commercial. So anyway, I believe the lease was with the foundation, and it was at the time with. It wasn't State Bank of Albany, but whoever owned that building was the.
No, it wasn't Albany. It was Bank of America.
I don't ultimately, I think it became Bank of America. I think you're right. But it went through a couple of different names in between. So anyway, the lease was then. Now actually, I think the boss owns this building, right? And Mr. Tesoro,
yes,
owned by the bank building at some point. Yeah.
And he's looking. I believe he's looking to get the city to sign a lease to run the.
Yeah, if there's no lease.
There's no lease.
Yeah. Right. So that's what it's all about, huh?
That's what it's all about.
And of course, we can't be told that because.
Well, no, then you're negative.
Right.
Well.
Speaking of which, it's great living in a post-apocalyptic community. Isn't it? Oh.
I should have brought my car down to them to use in their show.
Aside from the movie I made about my mayoral campaign, It's a Wonderful City. Can anybody remember the last movie that was made in Amsterdam? I don't mean that. I'm not talking about the documentaries about Amsterdam. There've been a couple of those, but where Amsterdam was used as a set. It goes back a long ways.
I can't remember.
I think it goes back to the 1960s, and there was a movie they filmed here.
It wasn't that long ago, Bob.
Huh?
The 60s isn't that long ago.
50 years.
It's relative.
I believe the movie was called Post No Bills. I don't know whatever happened to it. I've never seen it on Netflix. Should look it up. Post No Bills. They filmed a good chunk of that here.
Anybody ever heard of in it?
Bill.
Because they wouldn't post them.
Bill Pabis might have been in it. Actually, I think the Corner Tavern might have been in that movie. I forget. I remember talking to him about it, though. That's what's.
We'll have to Google it. We'll have to Google it, see what happened.
I don't remember every single detail of everything that ever happened, folks. But sometimes sometimes I remember pretty good. Thank you, Jessica Marr. And thank you, Recorder, for keeping it online so I could find it without really having to work too hard.
Modern technology.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Well, the casino seems to be in a little bit of difficulty.
How do you figure that?
They have no. They're looking for another 60 days and 25 million reduction.
Wow. Okay. This is WCSS. You're on the air.
Hi, Judge. How are you today?
Good.
Everybody else okay, too?
Outstanding.
I know, somebody-
I've enjoyed listening to the show so far.
So, some of these people are hungry, but anyway, what do you got?
I got a question for you.
Sure.
I coach a Little League team, help coach. I'm not the head coach.
Yeah.
But we're up in the Northville, Edinburgh area.
Yeah.
And this weekend, we got a big game down in the Cobleskill area. It's a pretty good drive down there.
Sure.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
from Northville, Edinburgh. Yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah. Now, Amsterdam's probably around halfway or so,
Roughly.
give or take.
Yeah.
And we're taking 4 or 5 vans down to Cobleskill filled with kids.
Van Heflin, Van
my
Johnson,
question to
Vandermeer.
Yes, go ahead.
The Amsterdam area. On the way back from Cobleskill, is there anywhere in Amsterdam where we could treat the kids to ice cream?
Oh yeah.
Wait a minute,
Oh,
wait,
wow.
Bud, this gets more complicated.
Because they might want pizza too.
I got about 25 kids and their parents,
Yeah.
and they're all going to want a different flavor of ice cream, I'm sure.
You know
But
what?
here's the thing. The coaches, we're a little nervous, and we're not eating before the game. We don't want ice cream. We want a good meal to eat while the kids are
While the kids are eating ice cream.
being treated
Yeah.
to ice cream.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, Elaine-
can you
Elaine-
recommend anywhere in Amsterdam
You
that
go-
will suit the bill?
Well,
you know,
if you're not
to-
planning on going to Jim Nicosio's
No,
house,
Elaine's going to be busy, so you'll have to. I know just the place to go.
you
Okay,
do-
I'm going to hang up and listen.
All
Okay.
right. Okay.
Okay,
All
all
right.
right.
Well, if you're coming from
So
Cobleskill,
see what happens if you wait too long to do the commercial.
if
There
you're
you
coming
go.
from Cobleskill, you come in on Route 30
Route
North.
30 North.
Yeah.
And you come up 1, 2, 3, 4 traffic lights, and just past that 4th traffic light, you're still going to be, the road's going to split for Route 30 North
Yeah.
and Route 67
And Route
East.
60.
Yeah.
And you're going to stay to the right and go 67 East.
Yeah.
One more stoplight, continue to go around the bend past the old Green Hill Cemetery. When you get to the 5 corners, you take a left on Forest Avenue. If you go up there, probably about 3/4 mile on the left-hand side, there is a place
What's
that
up?
has got, everything you as a coach could want. You got young people working who are friendly and looking to provide great service. You've got a veteran manager and owner of the place who knows how to provide the best of everything, and you get choices. You got 20 some kids, there's 24 choices of ice cream. Each kid could have their own kind of ice cream if they chose to do
That's
that.
right.
Their
Their
own
own
flavor.
They got soft ice cream and hard ice
Oh
cream.
no, they got rid of the hard ice cream.
No,
you got to stay up with it.
Oh,
yeah, when we went to the 24 flavors, we
They had everything covered.
he had to
Yeah.
take the machine out. Okay.
Yeah.
all
They
right.
got
Okay.
eggplant parmesan, they got spaghettis, they got pizza, they got the best wings this side of the Mississippi River.
Wait.
Without a doubt.
And their burgers are good also.
even including buffalo.
Buffalo wings. Did you ever see a buffalo with wings to start with? No.
Yeah.
These
I
are
got chicken
Amsterdam,
wings.
Amsterdam wings.
Even though they do give you some legs, it's still chicken wings. It's fabulous, and it's run by a gentleman who can remember back 50 years to the 60s when they made that movie.
He was probably already working there at the time.
I'm sure he was. He would have been 12, 13 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And the name of the place on the left-hand side, just so you don't miss it, is called Crystal on Forest.
Crystal on Forest.
Yeah.
Crystal on Forest.
That's right.
And they have both ice cream and food.
That's right. You can get your main course and you
And
get
your
your
dessert.
dessert. They've got sizes. They got 24. I stopped there. The
This
other
isn't
night.
Tony Sentai's place, is it?
It is. It is. I stopped there. I stopped there last night. You know what kind of ice cream? What flavor I got?
Banana.
Vanilla.
Chocolate and vanilla twist.
There you
Okay,
go. There
I
you
get
go.
the same thing
Not
every
again,
time.
Not again.
Every time, because you know what you're going to get. You know the quality and consistency is going to be there, whatever you get. whether it's the pizza or the spaghettis or the pizza balls, whatever. It's going to be as great as it was the last
Do you have
time.
that chef salad?
No, I'm not a chef.
Ah, well, the chef salad will go on for several.
Really?
And pasta. Oh,
Yeah.
and they say, "Would you like anchovies with that?" Oh, of course. But then they put the anchovies
Anchovies.
On the side.
What happens
On
if
the
you're a guy? You get Uncle Chovies?
not anchovies, anchovies.
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 And an olive, and a tomato, and a pepper.
tomato, right.
Okay, I got it.
Right.
I got it.
You know, I'm joshing you because I'm well aware of Crystal on Forest and the fine service and food that they have there. Because you know, the wife and I were there the other night. We went after the ball game. We dropped down there, and a very friendly young lady waited on us at the ice cream counter, and she said, "What could I get you, sir?"
Obviously, she didn't know you because she called you sir.
That's right. I said, I would like a banana milkshake the way Tony makes it for himself. And she said, how is that? I said, ask him. And so she smiles and she turns around, she finds Tony, and I see them whispering together, and she nods. And so we go inside and wait for it, and chopped up a banana. Threw it in with the banana ice cream. It comes out. Do you remember when Carol's first opened, the Carol's Hamburger?
Oh,
place?
absolutely.
You remember those thick shakes they had
Absolutely.
there? You could turn them upside
Yeah.
down and
It
then
wouldn't
nothing
come
would
out.
pour out?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's just about how thick this was. And the flavor was delicious, and it had the real fresh banana in it. And I said, Tony, I want to thank you for making this special for me. He says, we don't make things special for you. We make them special for everybody.
There you go.
That's how it
There
is.
you go.
So if you go to Crystal on Forest, make sure you mention the show with no name and that you want things the way Tony makes them for himself. Okay?
Can't beat that.
Tony Senta at
Crystal on Forest.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I mean, what a terrific place to bring baseball kids, right?
That's right.
All right.
It's going to be a hit for them,
Yeah.
whatever they get.
24 different flavors.
24 flavors.
You want pistachio? We got pistachio.
I want vanilla chocolate twist.
Vanilla chocolate twist. Okay. Well, their vanilla chocolate twist is the best in town. All right.
Excuse me.
Okay. I guess I'm done with my.
Pontificating. Is that
No,
what they call
I
it?
wasn't going to say pontificating. I was going to say.
Soliloquy.
I wasn't. That was just
Just an observation.
my observations.
Of different things that are going on.
I heard yesterday there was a big fire sale taking place in Boston. You could see the flames to New York. Is that correct?
You know, in the last week, they've gotten rid of 4 of the 5 starting pitchers they had on opening day.
Can't tell the players out of program now.
I don't know what to make of it.
How are they in the standings?
Well, they're in last place,
Oh,
but
I guess I shouldn't have asked.
but the only thing they've had going for them this year is their pitchers. Okay, because the hitting's been lousy.
So now they're
There's
gonna
only
be-
one 300 hitter, and that's the rookie Brock Holt, and they haven't figured out a position for him. Now they have because they got rid of Drew. So let's see, they got rid of.
Lackey?
First of all, the big one is John Lester, who's maybe a future Hall of Famer. They got rid of Lester, their number 1 pitcher. They got rid of Lackey, their number 2 pitcher. The previous day or two, they got rid of Jake Peavy, who was their number 3 pitcher, and Felix DeBrant, who had been a starter, but they had put him in the bullpen, and he didn't like it. So that's the 4 pitchers. They got rid of Andrew Miller, who was one of their setup guys. He was really a top-notch guy out of the bullpen. Okay, I'm really surprised they kept Uehara, their closer, who was the best in the game at the moment. Except he doesn't get to close much
Because they're never ahead.
they're never ahead. So that's 5, right? 5 just in pitchers. Then they got rid of Drew
Yeah.
and Johnny Gomes. That's 7. Right, 7 guys on their starting roster, on their 25-man roster,
7 out of 24 is
left this
17.
week.
Yeah.
Now, it's theoretically possible that they could make a deal with Lester in the offseason. I suppose that would be the best of all worlds because
There was talk. That was the reason they were looking to get rid of him and pick up where they could. And they did. They got a good ball player in Cespedes.
They did.
And the fact that Lester
Is that how he pronounces it?
Cespedes, yeah, that Lester would be a free agent, and he'd really like to stay in Boston and come back. So they may have gotten a good ball player for nothing for next year.
Yeah.
It's kind of like sometimes that player to be named later is himself, and he's coming right back because he did express interest that he really wanted to stay in Boston. Now, of course, he's got time with Oakland the rest of the year to decide if he likes Oakland better than Boston. They both have bays. They're both on the ocean.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And they'll see there. You know, Oakland is saying we want to win this year. Well, they may win this year. They may lose their big find this year as well when next year opens up. So it's a crapshoot. You know, with all the casinos, I guess that's what people are thinking about these days. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I thought one of the other things I found interesting was all the talk I thought had been about him going to the Dodgers.
They didn't get anybody.
So they ended up holding, huh?
They did. They hold because the one guy that they had been talked about them losing in this market was going to be Kemp, but all of a sudden Kemp's on fire, and since they've got a really decent staff to start with Kershiser and Greinke and Ryu. You know, you got 3 good starters there. They might be enough to get through the playoffs with.
Now, you know, I hadn't thought about this to the moment. Are the Yankees desperately in need of a shortstop that they picked up Stephen Drew?
No,
Don't they have a shortstop?
They do till the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I think they were looking at the market and saw that the best they've got that's going to be on the market is the guy right now, which is Drew, to fill in next year for Derek Jeter.
Drew's contract, he only had a contract till the end of the year anyway. And he's a free agent.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Got a chance to go to New York.
I understand that the Red Sox are, with Holt showing that he can play any position, but basically is a third baseman. They've moved Bogarts, who was a great shortstop, over to third base because they picked up Drew for his power, and he's batting like 216 or something. Yeah. That worked out real well.
Yeah.
Boy, those Drew brothers, they have been a great disappointment to that ball club. Boy.
They've underperformed wherever they've been.
They've gotten rid of an awful lot of the team over the course of the season here.
But they did a lot of moving the last time they won a World Series and came back. They built, you know. I think they're counting on some of the young guys they got in the minors to come up with.
The guys in the minors have been playing all season for the Red Sox. I think Victorino's obviously has not played much this year. He may be done.
Which is too bad. He was a real spark plug wherever he's been.
Oh, absolutely. Jim, you got nothing to say here?
Baseball-wise, no.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Now, do the Yankees have a starting pitcher for tonight's game? The Red Sox did not, last I knew. My brother was volunteering. He said he got the call from Sherrington and he's getting ready, warming up.
Yeah. They probably got somebody, but probably somebody I haven't heard of. I was talking to one of the guys on our softball team, and I said, I haven't watched an entire baseball game yet this year.
Is that right?
I haven't, and I've seen bits and pieces of a few of them, but just, the excitement that used to be generated by those two teams, Boston and Yankees, just
isn't there this year.
It isn't there. It's not. It's just, the name recognition players have all kind of either underperformed or been injured or gone away, and it's just not. It's not the same.
It's not the same without A-Rod, is it?
And that could be a good thing. Now, the best news I heard this week in all of baseball,
yeah,
and we just did make a mistake. The Dodgers did make a move. they're bringing Vin Scully back for 66 year next year as their announcer. And you know, you got.
He went into the Ford Frick side of the Hall of Fame in the '80s. I was there. Old veteran Vin Scully. Hey, isn't it great to see old Vin Scully there? That was 30 years ago.
Yeah, he's 86 years old, I think, and he was saying that he'll know when it's time to go, but it's not time to go yet. And you listen to him, and then you listen to John Sterling or some of these other guys. It's like, whoa, I don't want to listen to it. He knows you're when he does the broadcast of the TV games, he knows you're watching the game. All right, he understands that you can see what's happening. So he is just not a parrot there, parroting exactly what's taking place. He is colorful and in the eloquent way about what takes place and what situation is going on. He may have been broadcasting for 66 years, but he's probably got another 30 years left of observations to make.
Yeah.
He really does. He doesn't overstate any situation. He doesn't make it more of something than it really is. Where a lot of the other announcers, they get all excited over the most routine thing, and after a while, routine doesn't even seem any good anymore. So that I apologize, because I just did make a move, and that was the best move made by any team in the major leagues. Bring him back for another year. Think of what he has seen.
I know.
Okay, he broadcast DiMaggio.
Yeah,
Okay?
I mean,
he did the Yog. He did Mick.
Yes, he was
did
there
Mays.
during from the end of World War II,
Yeah.
really, just about.
51, I think he started. It's just unbelievable. He's seen all the greats of our lifetime.
Yes. Up close.
Up close.
Yeah.
And in a very understated, professional way.
We're old enough to remember Red Barber and Dizzy Dean,
Yeah.
and Mel Allen.
Yeah.
I was, before all this security stuff made our lives miserable, we'd go down for Hall of Fame weekend down to Cooperstown, and you mix with these guys.
Yeah.
They'd walk over from the hotel.
Yes, and I remember after the inductions one year, I was with Dave Petrusha and Doug Berge, and we went over to the Ada Saga and into the lounge and had a beer. Okay, so we're sitting at a table having a beer.
Rheingold?
Well, my beer is Rheingold, a dry beer. That's the Rheingold. Whenever you buy
or was it Utica Club with Schultz and Dooley from the Mets?
I think it's a beer lover's treat. Don't you try extra dry Rheingold beer? Something like that. When was the last time you heard a Rheingold commercial? Where did that come from? It's probably been 50 years since I heard one of those.
Yeah, that's been a long, long time.
You remember
Utica Club, no artificial bubbles. Age beer the natural way.
Utica Club. You see?
You see?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so I got my back to the next table, and all of a sudden I hear this, and it's the voice of America. Mel Allen's at the next table, and he's just telling a baseball anecdote to some former umpire. And, jeez. This is WCSS. You're on the air.
Can you tell me if anything is happening, or is the museum open on Saturdays?
Is the museum open on Saturday? Thank you, Mrs. Going. I'll get right into that. Yes, as a matter of fact, the museum is open. The Walter Elwood Museum. Thank you. Walter Elwood Museum will be open this Saturday because they got the first
Farmers Market.
Farmers Market is being held outside the museum, and then next week the Farmers Market will be in conjunction with the annual ice cream social at the museum. So we got two big weekends coming up in a row at the museum. So if you haven't seen the Walter Elwood Museum, now would be a nice time. It'll be open tomorrow. I might even be selling some books there. I don't know.
Where can you park?
You can park anywhere. We got about 400 parking spaces. Well, 200 maybe.
Yeah, but that's where the farmers market is, isn't it?
Oh, the farmers market's there, but then there's also there'll be plenty of spots.
Okay. I gotta go check it out. I gotta see
alongside the whole building, and then in The farmer's market's not taking up the whole big parking lot.
See if they got any cagoots flowers.
Any what?
Cagoots flowers.
Oh, cagoots flowers, yes.
What's a cagoots?
What's a cagoots?
What's a cagoot?
They're squash flowers. Squash or pumpkin flowers. And you
stuff them with a little bit of ricotta cheese.
And then wrap them in dough and deep fry them.
Deep fry them. You dip them in the dough and deep fry them. Or just fry them in a frying pan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cagoots.
Yeah.
It's great. Great stuff.
I got to have some today.
They're sweet. The flour?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really sweet, but
I think so.
well, it depends on the.
Is that gluten free though?
Well, the flour is, yeah. Not F-L-O-U-R, F-L-O-W-E-R, yeah. Flour is gluten free. You wrap it in the bread dough, and you got something else. Yeah.
Well, we don't wrap it in the dough.
Well,
We
yeah,
just dip it in a batter. and, put
Yeah, batter dipped. Yeah.
batter dip.
Well,
I'll let you know next week. I'll let you know
it's
Tuesday.
got the same ingredients as bread, doesn't it?
Yeah,
The batter.
yeah.
It's just
I'll let you know Tuesday how they came out.
Is the batter left-handed or right-handed?
That's a right-handed batter.
Oh, right-handed batter.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
So,
Not a switch hitter.
so
Don't call Jim a switch hitter. So anyway, what else we got coming up? What's a Stonehouse Piper doing? Anything?
Oh, yes, I'm glad you asked. We're going down to Cherry Valley this evening for a wedding rehearsal. He's playing in a wedding at 2:30 tomorrow in Cherry Valley. And then we're going to go right down to Albany and play at a reception. He got a gig down at the Albany Country Club for a wedding reception tomorrow night. So
Wow, two weddings.
Two weddings, yeah. He's gonna be We're going to be busy transporting the Stonehouse Piper this weekend.
Will you be going to Cherry Valley by way of Sprout Brook and Buell?
Yes, in fact,
it's
we
the way
are.
to go.
We're going to Albany down
Down Route 20.
Route 20,
Yeah.
but we're going to go up through Sprout Brook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there was anybody famous ever came from Sprout Brook.
go ahead.
don't know.
I'm feeding you
Oh,
guys.
I don't know. I don't know. Who's famous from Sprout Brook?
Henry Kaiser, the great American industrialist, the guy who won
Aluminum?
World War II for us. Yes.
Kaiser Aluminum.
Kaiser Aluminum, Kaiser Steel, Kaiser Automobile, Kaiser Parenti Health
Tank.
Insurance.
Kaiser Wilhelm.
Not that Kaiser. Oh, speaking of Kaiser Wilhelm.
Yes. Today is what?
Well, never mind today. Today's the 1st of August. But on Tuesday's show, we're going to commemorate the commencement of the First World War by having, as our special guest, noted presidential historian David Petrusha.
Great.
Wow. Is he able to talk about anything besides war, though? What else does he know?
Yes. He's also king of baseball.
Ah.
Yeah. So I didn't tell him he might be asked some questions about Shuttleworth Park. So
Well, you didn't. See, that's the surprise part.
that's the surprise part.
So
He wrote the book, but I wrote mine more recently, so stealing the material from his. He might not remember all this stuff. Every once in a while he's called on to to give a speech somewhere. Hey, we loved your book. Could you come and give it? Then he's got to reread his own book because he wrote it so long ago. He doesn't remember all this
But
stuff.
Bob, he will know. He may be talking about Shuttleworth Park because he's going to watch the podcast of this following the show.
He might, but he might not have gotten this far. He probably might have quit after the commercial. Anyway. The video of Tuesday's show with teen historian Philip Tambasco is still getting a lot of hits.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's funny. Those, of course, he sends them to all his friends. Make sure that they all watch it. Yeah. Anyway, what? It's time. It's the end of the show.
Getting ready.
Get out of town.
Yeah. So I'm putting the theme song up.
That's the fastest hour.
It's almost lunchtime.
Well, that's because I did all the talking. Sorry about that. Next week I'll try to keep my mouth shut. Anyway,
that'll never happen.
we're on regularly Tuesday and Fridays now, 10 to 11. And I'm Bob Going with Jim Nicosia and Gavin Murdoch. And thanks for listening to the show with no name.